This is Professional Launch with Ricot Aladdin, positively connecting the less connected, bridging gaps, and building futures in the community. Professional Launch with Ricot Aladdin.
Hello, professionals. My name is Ricot Aladdin, and I am the founder of Professional Launch and the host of the Professional Launch show on WDAY here. And today we'll be talking about networking and professional relationship building. I couldn't be happier to have Kurtis here to talk about that, and he brought a guest with him. Kurtis, please introduce yourself, and then we'll have Alex introduce himself.
Yeah. My name is Kurtis Karn. I'm Associate Vice President of Talent Acquisition with KLJ Engineering, and brought my friend here.
I'm Alex Cassett. I'm an intern at KLJ Engineering, and I'm going to be a sophomore in the fall at Concordia College.
Wonderful, guys. I am so glad to have both of you here. Kurtis, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll have most of the conversation. When you are in talent acquisition, that is a job, that is something that is killing two birds with one stone. You're helping job seekers, and you're helping your company finding talent. So now, before we go deeper into that, can you share your career journey and how did you get into talent acquisition?
Yeah. Oh man, we're gonna go way back here. So I went to college. Went to University of Jamestown. Have a double major in business and communication and a minor in IT. Right out of college, kind of like a lot of students, I didn't really know what I was doing. I did an internship at Trollwood here in Fargo for marketing, but ended up moving to Minneapolis because that's where I was living for most of my summers with my brother.
Okay.
Right out of school, I got lucky and fell into pharmaceutical sales. So I was, for lack of a better term, selling drugs, which is funny to say. All legal, it's all good, everything's good there. But I did that for 7 years and got to learn a lot about corporate America, how organizations work, sales, and then developing relationships because you're doing a sales type of a job. My territory eventually got cut. It's one of those things that happens in that area.
Yeah.
And from there, I got lucky and fell into working for a local college and their career center, helping students as they kind of develop into getting jobs, which took me to a talent acquisition role at a company that was called Discovery Benefits back in the day. When I started, we were about 190 people, and when I left, we were about 900. So helped to grow that organization, which was a phenomenal group. And then a couple other spots here, took another job in Minneapolis, back to Fargo here, working for Discovery Benefits, which became WEX here. And then the opportunity with KLJ Engineering came about. So I've been there for about 3.5 years.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, when you are talking about your journey, you are someone that I need to, our relationship, I get to nurture it a little bit more because I need you in my corner to help me build this up for young professionals. I'm telling you. And I was really impressed when Travis was on the show and, he was talking about you and he said, everybody knows this guy. You should. And so I'm like, okay, well, if there is someone that everybody knows, that's somebody that I need to talk to. So I appreciate you able to come on the show and share about networking. And Travis, before we, go to Alex to ask him, how did you get this internship? Why is networking such a critical skill for young professionals today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the biggest thing is, as a young professional, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And being able to find somebody that you can connect with to ask those questions. I look back to when I was still in school and you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. You're like attending career fairs and you're walking around. The market was much different back in those days. It was a little harder for people back in the day to get a job at that time. Today, we all are clamoring for great talent, right? So as a student looking for jobs, I would say sometimes, and I don't know if Alex can back this up, but it's a little overwhelming if you go to a career fair because everybody's like, hey, right? Everybody's grabbing you as you're just walking because we're all competing for talent, right? We're all trying to find the best talent. So as a student, finding those people that you can connect with to help you just kind of navigate that route. And then also, I think in developing those relationships, those people have relationships with people within the community, within the business sector. That's when you get to know what a company is really about. Exactly. And I think you can work for any company nowadays. You have to find a company that you have a connection with in some way, shape, or form. Their values, their mission, whatever that is. And usually people can help point you to those general directions based on their experiences or their networking events too. Yeah.
Wonderful. So Alex, how did you get your internship?
Yeah, so I have one of my good buddies that I've been friends with for about 10 years now. His dad actually works for KLJ. Wade Klein is his name. And he saw what I was going into. I'm going into marketing and finance. Okay. And he thought with my marketing background that it would be perfect for this shared services intern at KLJ. And so he put in a referral for me. A couple of weeks later, I went to a job fair where I met Kurtis for the first time. And we set up I gave him my resume and everything, and we set up an interview a couple of weeks later, and ended up here.
Here we go.
So we both can agree, we all three of us can agree that opportunity, that this internship comes from a relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And which is a good segment into my next point, which is talking about what we are doing with Professional Launch, which is creating a mentoring platform where college students can connect with experienced mentors in the community. And if you go on our website right now, professionallaunch.org, there's a button on there you can press and see the platform, and you can even sign up as a mentor and all that. And so, it's becoming more and more important for young professionals to understand that the usual resume and cover letter thing is still there, but it's better to have some of those relationships that can lead you to opportunities. So, Kurtis, what drew you to focus on coaching, networking, and as part of your professional path?
Yeah, I think with talent acquisition, you're really representing whatever company you work for, right?
Exactly.
It's a part of you, and you're representing that to the community. And so for me, it's always just been about, hey, whatever company I'm with, I need to get out and be in front of people so that they know who the organization is. And if they associate that with me, I think that's great. That's a first connection. The company's obviously more than that, but I'm really their first connection from that side of it. So getting out, talking to people. And I think the biggest thing with networking for me is you can ask anybody, what do you do, right? And get an answer. Then what, right? You have to develop a connection.
Yes.
In some way, shape, or form. It's got to be more than a transactional, what do you do? I work here. Cool. Nice to meet you type of a situation. That's not networking. It's developing those actual connections and relationships with people. And that's something I've found out over the years is, in one question that I will typically ask if we're at an event when I don't know anybody is, instead of, hey, what do you do? Say, hey, what do you do when you're not working? Boom. We instantly have something to talk about. Maybe it's rock climbing. I don't know anything about rock climbing, right? I live in North Dakota, right?
Yeah.
The only thing we can climb is the overpass, really. There's not a lot of mountains here. But that gives me a platform to be like, wow, I'm generally interested in that. Tell me more about that. And as human beings, people love to talk about themselves, right? So asking questions to pull that out. And then you have a memorable conversation. That person's going to remember you after that versus just, hey, what do you do? Drive by in the night type of, here's my card, see you later type of a situation.
Wonderful. And, that is so, what you just said is so important. One thing I would like to know is, I would like to find a way to help convince young professionals and, that building those relationships while you are in school, when you have a support system, like you have the professors, you have all the school personnel, they are there to help you launch your career. And so by using them. So when it comes to that, you work as in the career center before. What are some of the misconception or the most common misconception that young professionals have about networking?
Yeah, I think it's probably that it's just so much work, right? And it is.
Because it's
working. Yeah, working is part of it. Yeah, exactly, right? But I mean, it's kind of like, I would say, like when social media first comes out, or when social media, you have to be intentional with what you're putting out there, right? It's the same with networking. You can't just show up and expect it to happen. You've got to make it intentional. And so you have to put forth effort to be able to do that, to engage in those conversations, to have those conversations. But you talk about that. You talk about professors. You talk about career centers. And I think that's why for our company, it's so important for us to get in to talk to college students as industry. Because I feel like when it's like your professors and everything in school, they're like your mom and dad. They're telling you the same thing, and you're like, okay, whatever. Well, then industry comes in, and they're like the cool uncle, and they're telling you the exact same thing, but they're like, oh, no way, I can't believe that. They start listening when industry says it, even though the professors and the Career Center are saying the exact same thing, but they need to hear it from an outside source. They need to like hear it from another connection. And once they can finally get those two together, they're like, oh, maybe we do have something here. Maybe I should be making an effort to do some more of those aspects and some of those more of those connections.
Wonderful. So, Alex, have you ever thought about networking before? And if you have, what do you think of networking?
Yeah. So, one thing I like to bring up is I was involved in a club called DECA throughout high school, and I've been involved in it for 3 years, competing at the state level, winning state all 3 years, and then competing at the national level with over 20,000 participants in the club. And just reaching out and meeting people that are like the best of the best at like business law and ethics and marketing and communications and stuff. And we're all like the same age. That really kind of like opens your eyes, like, you know, building connections with these people could get you a gateway to something even bigger. And, you know, that's just kind of what got me into networking and stuff. And that was probably the biggest thing that's, you know, helped me shape who I am now and where I am. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we'll ask Kurtis, what can young professionals do, especially those who find networking intimidating or awkward? What can they do to improve their professional relationships? We'll be right back. We are back. Today we are talking about networking and professional relationships building. And I have Kurtis here with Alex in the studio, and we are having so many laughs here. It's really good to have this conversation. And I hope if you are listening, you're watching this, you are getting the value that we're providing with this conversation. So, Kurtis, what advice would you give to someone, a young professional in college right now, who finds networking intimidating or awkward? What would you tell?
Yeah, it's not for everybody. Like, you have those classic introverts, right? But it's still just, hey, you're just connecting with another human being, right? And I think the intimidating part is, again, a lot of times, who do I talk to? Who am I supposed to contact? Who do I get in touch with? You know, and that's where you can pull on your professors. That's where you can pull on the Career Center. They know people of what's going on if you're a student, things like that. Connecting you with people within the community. Also, you know, if you're from the area or you have schoolmates that are from the area, ask who their parents are or what they're connected with as well, because you never know when it's gonna the loop's gonna close and you know somebody from somebody. I mean, you know, it's North Dakota, Minnesota. You know, it's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's 1 degree of North Dakota. Like, you can get there pretty quick to somebody else just by asking kind of where they're from and what their background is too.
Yep. I find out this is a very small world. Whenever I would introduce a guest to someone, I say, oh, I know Kurtis. Oh, I know Alex. It's like it's such a small world. And so one thing I like to ask my guests is talking about mentorship, because I say that many times on the show. I'm a product of mentors, simply because I have many of them, and they all contribute in a way to make me the professional that I am today. And so, Kurtis, how do you define mentorship?
Oh man, I think it's just mentorship is just somebody that you can gain ideas and access to information that maybe you haven't had before. Mentors can be experienced professionals. They can be people who are less experienced than you across the board. You know, my buddy Eric and I, we do some presentations out, and we always talk about, a board of directors. And you need like a personal board of directors as well, right? You need like somebody that you can go to that's like the CEO, but like you need somebody who maybe you worked with in the past that you don't work with anymore to keep that contact with. You need a lot of times somebody who's, I would say, younger than you is a good connection, because there's sometimes gap in what's going on, or somebody who's still earlier in their professional development. So for me, it's just really being able to gauge different ideas and understandings of people's backgrounds and how they approach different situations from a mentoring standpoint. And then you find out, hey, how can I apply that to what I'm doing or what I'm using? Because you get great ideas, you get energy from mentors, you get possible opportunities and things like that. So it's really all of those aspects of it. So for me, I always just think of mentorship as like you connecting with another person to hopefully benefit you in some way, shape, or form, personally, professionally, whatever. Make yourself better, from that side of it.
Yeah, it's you nailed it. That's and a lot of times those relationships, they may not be labeled as such, such as a mentoring relationships. But when you talk about it, when people are telling you about those kind of relationships, realize this is exactly a mentoring relationships. Now, have you had mentors in your life?
Yeah, I have. It's kind of funny. Steve and I were talking downstairs. We worked together in a previous life, and had an individual that I worked with there that I don't think was an official mentor, like in my brain. But you look back, and you're like, yeah, I asked this person a lot of questions about business and other aspects. And so I think that was the first one where I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm heavily leaning on this person as mentorship, whether they know it or not, but they're giving that advice. And so I think that one happened unintentionally. And then there's just people I've kept in touch with in the past. Again, kind of that CEO board of directors for me to be able to pull ideas off of and connect with every once in a while. And those mentorships turn into friendships, right? And you keep those connections, and then it's almost like you still talk about things to better yourself, but it's almost like, hey, we're now friends and we're just catching up.
The relationship gets a little deeper.
So much deeper, right? You start learning about family and friends and everything like that. And again, as human beings, we all just want a connection. That's like ingrained in our DNA is connection, right? And so it's just like, how do you find that with somebody? And then the conversations that you have, you can put that into your personal, professional life to hopefully better yourself in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, wonderful. So, Alex, I don't want to put you on the spot now. Have you ever thought about having a mentor, or have you heard about mentorship before?
Yeah, definitely. I actually had one through high school. She was my marketing teacher.
Oh, wow.
And I took her class for all 4 years of high school. She actually led me to pursue a career in marketing. And I just loved it so much. She even got me involved in DECA too, which I never thought of ever joining, but she pushed me to do it, and I loved it, and I love marketing. So yeah, excited to pursue a career in it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things is, again, mentorship. Somebody pushes you a little bit further. They see the potential, right, in you, and will push you into doing something. Again, DECA, or taking on a project, or I look back to some of the things I was doing, and the person who I kind of consider a mentor, he's never said no. It was always, yeah, that sounds great. Go for it. Green light, right? And when you do that, I mean, you whether you're able to do it or not, there's always the imposter syndrome of being able to get there. But if they're like, yeah, go do it, figure it out.
Yeah. On the show, we say that we like to think of mentors as professional parents.
Yeah.
So because they are there to guide you in your journey. And, I almost everyone that I have interviewed, and I have interviewed many, over the last 5 years, I interviewed a lot of folks. And I'm talking about people that are mid-level managers. I'm talking about people that are at the very top, CEOs, university presidents, and what have you. They all have a mentorship story that they can share with you. Yeah. And just like Alex said, that teacher that introduced you to DECA, you said DECA? DECA, okay. And it's me thinking about creating that platform for young professionals. I could not think of a better way to set them up to get those professional connections that can help lead them to opportunities. Yeah. Right. And so this is, it's, I think you probably covered that. My next question would be, what makes a mentoring relationship mutually beneficial? So what would you say? What would you add to that?
I think that's one thing that is always the case, because whether you are taking on a mentee or you are a mentee, it's a two-way street, right? And that's always the case. You can always learn something new from somebody. And, I think Travis did it too, but the NDSU mentorship program, he's had that for years. I've had mentees through there as well, that turn into friendships and go on, and people in completely different areas. Doesn't necessarily need to be this type of profession that I'm in, but those continue to grow. But I learned so much as well. I'm not on the TikTok. I don't know what's going on over there, right? So you need to have those connections with folks to be able to still see what's going on and what's relevant. And that's even something, from Alex coming in from a marketing standpoint, we're having him look at our business platform and like, hey, how do we reach younger professionals? How do we reach people who are maybe their freshman, sophomore year better than maybe what we're doing right now? Because he's living that. right? He can help with that.
Wonderful. So, I was looking at Jim to see if it's a break yet, but one thing I was going through my mind when you were talking about this is the fact that young people that are in college sometimes they may not know that while they are a junior, or they may not want to start these. What I tell them is, the moment you start identifying what you like in college, you should definitely find someone who is in that field that can help you do just that. And so, what should a young professional look for in a good mentor?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I think one thing, you should have something in common.
Yeah.
Right. There's got to be that commonality aspect of it, because if you don't have something in common, it's not going to connect.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Right. Maybe you get paired up with somebody and there just doesn't click. That's okay. Yeah. Right. It's one of those things from that side. But, it's also whatever you want to put into the mentorship as well is going to be an aspect of it. But I think just finding out, hey, some commonality, whether that's the business they go into or that they currently do, or something on a personal side, or that they do in their downtime. That's where it starts, because if you don't have that, you're not gonna.
There will be no.
There's not going to be any way to further the relationship.
Wonderful. So we're gonna take another break here. When we come back, we'll talk to Kurtis and Alex about digital presence and modern tools, how they can use them to build relationships. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Today we are talking about networking and building professional relationships with Kurtis and Alex. Alex is an intern, and which makes it perfect for this show, because we get to talk to someone who will be looking to to grow their network as they they launch their careers. So Kurtis, one thing we would like to do with professional launch is to create those events that give, experienced professionals, that brings more experienced professionals together with less experienced ones, meaning college students, young professionals. And so, because we are seeing that it's almost as if the human factor in relationships is getting away. And so, what do you think? Are virtual networking events and connections as valuable as in-person ones?
Short answer, no. But I think they can develop or start the connection, right? Yeah. If you have virtual events or things, that's where you first meet people. But then again, you've got to make an effort to connect somehow.
Yeah, I guess I should have said, I should have mentioned that too. There are instances where it may not be possible,
right,
to have a in-person connect,
event. I think if when you say virtual, in my brain I just instantly went to just like messaging back and forth on LinkedIn. But you can take it further than that, right? Yeah. So I think it's valuable if you could connect virtually, like video or things like that. Like you said, maybe there's not a direct collection, you can't be in the same space, but if you can do something via video call, things like that, I think you can have a very, very good, meaningful mentorship. From that side, there's just something about talking to a human face to face that makes a big difference.
With you don't feel like you're talking to a machine,
right? Exactly, right. Like is this AI? I don't know what's coming back on this chat. I'm not sure, but I mean, most of our organizations, I look at our company and we're 26 locations spread out in the Upper Midwest. Well, a lot of our conversations were not in the same geographic region, right? So we do have video calls, which make those. We've fostered in and started putting in meetings that will put people face to face, but it's usually like if it's a large group, like once or twice a year, which we see those connections go deeper then on that versus just on the video. But I think it's a good place to start. You can start developing that a little bit on that side too.
Wonderful. So Alex, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but would you rather go to an event in person, or would you rather be in front of a computer screen watching, an event?
Yeah, I would prefer in person as well.
Okay.
Like Kurtis said, it's just something about speaking to someone face to face. It just creates a deeper connection than online. And I firmly believe that meeting someone face to face will generate a better relationship in the long run than, you know, just zooming for 5 minutes or something, you know?
Yeah. I feel like with video calls, you know, today it's like everything's got an agenda.
Yep.
Right? If you're on a video call, you're there for a specific reason. You don't just get to chat, you know? And it's like you're never really calling somebody up and being like, hey, how's it going? You know, how's your day? Like, what's going on? And so I think that makes it a little bit harder because if through a video, but if you can make it intentional. I remember like through COVID, I would call people and be like, I have no agenda. I just want to see you and see how it's going and talk. Yep. You know, and I would schedule 2 or 3 of those a week because for me, that was like a mental release.
Yep.
Because everything else is 30 minutes and blocked out all the stuff you needed to get done in that time frame. And so again, I think they can work, but you have to have an informal type conversation, I think a little bit too, to develop some more of those things where you connect. Yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, talking about that, you know, how important it is for young professionals to start building their professional presence on platform like LinkedIn. And there's another part to that question. And how can they use social media wisely to expand their network?
There's the kicker, right? Wisely.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Because, you know, you can go, a lot of the young folks, I say they're young, but, you know, people that are in college, sometimes they are posting random stuff, not knowing that can come back to bite them later in, you know, in their search for a career. So when I say wisely, it's because I get to see it, and once it's out there, sometimes it's really hard to remove it. And so, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn's going to be your big one, right? From a professional development side. You know, I don't, as a recruiter, I'm not going to look on your personal socials. I feel like that's yours, but if there's a professional one, that's where I'm going to go. So I think LinkedIn's going to be the big choice for that. But again, intentional on what you're putting out there, right? If this is going to be your professional platform, the things that you're putting onto the LinkedIn and things like that need to be in a professional thought process and manner of, hey, these are the things that I want to represent where I'm going in my career or things of that nature, because you can still make great connections on LinkedIn. You really can, you know? That's where we first connected, I think, is you reached out, right? And now we're here. But that's the thing. And that's, you never know what's going to come from that. But again, that platform I think needs to be very well thought out of. It's not just your friend's social media. It's not you just sending Snapchat to all your buddies or your group or anything like that. That's one where you want to put successes and things that you're good at. And you know, it's almost a little bit of a brag platform, right? For you on that sense. You know, and I tell students all the time, one thing that I learned a little bit later in my life is if you get into an email system or you have it set up for school, start a folder called Brag Book and just put good things that people say to you or things like that in there. Because when it comes down to an interview or even as a professional, like your quarterly review, whatever, people are like, so what went well this quarter? And you're like, well, I don't remember. And you know, you live in the moment. Oh, you can go back into that Brag Book and pull that out. Or when you're in an interview, oh, hey, I had a professor. Tell me about a time you had a success story. Oh, I had a professor tell me this, because you can go back in there and look. It at least keeps your mind there from that side. And I think that's kind of what LinkedIn would help with too, is you can kind of put those little things that go well out there to help you pull from to use in the future. Yeah.
So Alex, how do you use LinkedIn?
I do.
Okay. You know, the reason why I'm asking is because, you know, do you post intentionally? Do you use you know, social media intentionally? Like, you don't post random stuff on there?
Yeah. Definitely. I, you know, keep in mind what I'm posting that people will see, and, you know, if I don't want someone to see it, I'm not posting it.
There you go. There you go.
You know, just being smart with that.
Yeah, wonderful. So you know, from a recruiter's lens, Kurtis, how do strong professional relationships affect someone's candidacy?
Yeah, I mean, for Alex, has jumped into the top of the pile, right? That's really the case. And I think that's probably the hardest part with everything that's going on in the recruiting world is AI, is things that are looking for those buzzwords on resumes, right? You have large companies that are maybe having AI scan resumes before they move them through. I think I hear from a lot of professionals is I put in a resume and it goes to a black hole, right? And that's the case. And they don't have any, if you don't have any connections there in that building or in that organization that they're working with, that could be the case, right? You could be getting passed over. I think those relationships bump you up to the top of the pile from a resume standpoint. And then you as a candidate, that's your foot in the door, right? And then it's your job to sell yourself at the interview.
Yeah.
But the hardest part is getting that first aspect of foot in the door.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what those relationships really do, is they will pull your resume to the top of whatever that position is going to be, as long as your qualifications are there and you hit all the skills and the abilities needed for the role. Will definitely get you into that aspect of, hey, let's meet with this person to move this along. You don't go into the black hole. You don't go into the abyss of nothingness.
Yes, I went to a networking group on Tuesday, and one of the participants in that group said something that blew my mind. He says that a HR team were looking for a candidate, so the CEO put his resume in the pile, and guess what? AI didn't pick the CEO's resume, so the CEO come back and fires everybody. That is the thing. He said you have to meet with people and be sort of rely on AI to pick up resume. I mean, I can't, I can't vouch for the story, but it was an eye-opening to me, and the value of how things are being done in the HR world, but also how important it is at least to know someone in the company if you're trying to apply for a position, especially if you are young college students with not too much experience. And not too many.
I say you want to get human eyes on it, right? That's really the case, is you want to have human eyes on your resume so you can get in there. And AI is going both ways, where you have candidates that are using AI to tailor their resume specific for the position so that they get pulled and back and forth. But I think to your point, it's you want to get human eyes on it so that you can make a connection, get that to the top, and then you get in to really get to the interview, and that's the point you want.
Wonderful. So we're gonna think, man, I'm enjoying the conversation today. This is what I want professional knowledge to be about. But we're gonna take another break here, and when we come back, we will talk about advice and actionable takeaways that young professionals can do. We are back. Today we are talking about networking and building professional relationships. I should say building meaningful professional relationships. And this is what we are doing with our organization, Professional Launch. I have to remind you that Professional Launch is a nonprofit organization, and therefore we rely heavily on guests, on friends, on partners to keep our operation going. So, go on to professionallaunch.org and on the donate page and see every way that you can help us. You can volunteer, you can support our programs, you can support the organization, and we thank you so much for that. Now, talking about relationship, right? We need relationship to keep this platform going. And so now, another question for the recruiting and employer perspective. How does your team identify and nurture talent through relationship-based hiring?
I think we see a lot of our early career hires coming from career fairs. So we try and get out to a lot of the different locations that we're at. We have good relationships with a lot of the colleges and universities where some of our physical locations are, so that people can come in and meet us. But then as we go through the interview process, we want to keep that connection through the process, right? If we're going through interview to the next step and things like that, I always say you want a warm handoff between initial contact, which is, okay, hey, it starts right when they apply or when they first see your organization online, get that application in. Well, if they're going to match the positions of the job, we're reaching out, making those connections. Maybe our recruiting team has those conversations. Then we're handing them off to the hiring manager. Hiring manager's having those conversations. We're following up on that to make sure that we're keeping those warm connections through that. And so I feel like that relationship is kind of like the warm handoff between it, right? On that, and then following up so that they know where they're kind of sitting with it as well. I think in the recruiting world, again, we talked a little bit about this. Sometimes things are black holes and they just go in there. So, I know when I was looking for a job, it's like, I'm an adult. Just give me a no. That's fine. I can take a no. I know I'm not going to get every position I'm looking for. But I think that's a big part with it too, is just being able to be open and honest with it, to be able to have that. But once they're in the organization, then we try and connect them with as many people as possible. I think Alex had probably people fatigue his first week. We had, everybody on our team he met. He met people on the marketing team. He met our proposals. He met our graphic designers, just so he has a little bit of an understanding within the organization where they're at. And now we're kind of weaving the way of, hey, here's projects that we think will match what he's kind of looking for, and things that are happening there. So, relationships start a lot of the things he's going to be working on based off of the connecting with that and finding, hey, okay, this is his background, this is his talents, let's get him put into work.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we get to the last segment of the conversation. It's about advice for young professionals. So how can someone maintain relationships over time without seeming transactional?
Yeah, I think it's, again, you just have to be intentional with making a connection. Whatever that is first, it will develop into a personal relationship if you can make some sort of a connection. Find some commonality with the individual. Could be their business, could be their background, could be where they're from, could be their favorite sports team. You just never know what that's going to be.
Find a connection.
A deeper connection. And that's why asking those questions is so important. Yes, hey, what do you do is a great question to get things going, but you need to move past that. And that's what's going to, I think, develop those relationships and further those relationships. I think too is sometimes you got to put yourself out there, which is super scary, right? It's like vulnerability and like things like that. So you've got to do that and put yourself out there a little bit. I remember when I first started in talent, I went to everything. I went to and again, my company was like, go do it, do your thing, right? I went to every event. I went everywhere. People were like, hey, I just met you at this last thing. I see you here again. You're doing another thing, and that's what we have in this community. You've got all those different events with the chamber and folkways and all these other places where you can make connections with people. It's like they're there, they're available. You just have to start doing them as well.
Before the last question for Kurtis, Alex, thank you again for coming, and it's very brave of you to answer come on the show and answer our question. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
So if there's what's one thing you learned from the show today, or one thing you learned about networking or professional relationship building that you can even share with some other students?
Yeah, probably the biggest takeaway for me from the show is getting your foot in the door. That's the first step. That's the biggest step in order to, network and stuff and create connections. But yeah, just, getting your foot in the door, trying things out, meeting new people. I think that's the biggest thing from the takeaway from at least today.
Yeah, he came back. We threw everything at him the first week. He came back the second week. So, that's a good sign,
That's good. Yeah. That's good. So we have the final questions. Now, Kurtis, this is our final question. Actually, it's two questions, but we have only 2 minutes to make that happen.
I'll go fast.
So what role does giving back, such as mentoring others, play in long-term career growth?
I love that. I played sports in college, and so that coaching aspect has always been there, and the mentoring of other people. And so that's always been just a big bucket fill for me. But I think if you can give back to somebody who's doing something, help them grow or push them a little bit, then you already have that connection because you push them to where maybe they didn't think they could get to or get on their own. They'll come back and tell you the story about it, good or bad, and you've kind of weathered that storm together. So I think those relationships will develop based off of what you can kind of push them to do on that side. And to be honest, it's fun to watch people grow. It's fun to watch people step out of their comfort zone and figure out they can do things that they can't on that side. So for me, that's just always been a personal aspect that I think is fallen over to my professional career as well.
Wonderful, man. Thank you so much, both of you, for being on the show today. I really like this topic. I'm pretty big on networking. I like to say, I think I have a decent network. But it takes time and to build this. And both of you, thank you, Kurtis, thank you, Alex, for being on the show today. And hopefully what we share here today will benefit a lot more people, especially young professionals who are launching their careers. Now, this is the part that I tell you. It's up to you to make today a great day. Have a great day.